Well, hello. I'm going to assume that I'm live. I know there's at least one person there, so it's probably Billy or JF, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Hello, welcome. I was late in getting to the desk and getting this sorted, so please say hello, whoever you are out there watching. Oh, you've gone, right. So I'm talking to myself at the moment, but that's not a problem. So if you're watching this on playback, hello there, whoever's just joined, do say hello if you'd like to, so I can see who's with us. Today we're going to be talking about detachment, and obviously we're going to touch on, of course, most of today is going to be, I guess, focused around the whole COVID-19 process, at this point in our world that we find ourselves. Do say hello, people, if you can hear me. I hope you can. Oh, JF, hello. Hi. Yes, I was late. I was running around fixing my boiler, believe it or not. I'm sure it's symbolic. We'll talk about symbolism soon. Hello, Voiken, Full Monty. Dave, Adrian, good afternoon, mate. I'm sure you've got something better to do, but that's good to see you. Okay, so fundamentally, so just for those that are not regulars, obviously all of you guys are. If you're catching this on playback, then obviously this is an opportunity for Q&A live. So what happens is that we start off with a general sort of topic, and this week, as I say, it's detachment. It's going to be a fairly meandering sort of flow through, because these lives always are. So if you don't want to hear all the meandering chit chat, have a look for the playlist that is, sorry, just changing something here. Have a look at the playlist that is containing the edited highlights, and perhaps there's something in there that you'll find useful. So now, slightly different today. I've also got, I'm having to look down here. I've got my Facebook Messenger open, which is going to be a recipe for extra chaos. So bear with me. Steve, hello there. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Steve. I actually feel so. Yeah, this is potentially what's going to happen today. I'm basically keeping you occupied, stopping you getting bored for an hour. So we'll see what happens. Joseph, good to see you. Jim, good to see you from the States over there. Hopefully Tammy will be with us later. I don't know. Great, good to see you all. Sorry, I was late getting to the YouTube channel, so the notification was late going up there and all the rest of it. But well, let's get on. 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had our last live, and a lot can happen in 2 weeks. So virtually the whole world is in lockdown. That's interesting in itself. As my eldest son pointed out, he actually said, "Dad, does it make any difference to your life being in lockdown?" And to be honest, it's not making a lot of difference really right here. And I know that Adrian would testify that I am a bit of a hermit. So, Susanna, good to see you. Slovenia, excellent. Nice to have you along. And Billy, hi, Billy. Thanks for your message. So, yeah, personally speaking, we're not going to go into the personal stuff very much, but personally speaking, I mean, lockdown, of course, it's an absolutely amazing situation to be in. And we're going to look at all of that. And, you know, there's been much talk from various people that, you know, like the world has never seen anything like this before. Well, we'll get onto this later. But of course, no, we haven't seen lockdown like this on a global scale. But for sure, we've had the 1918 flu epidemic, which of course none of us were alive for. Yeah, well, Joseph, well, exactly. I suspect that there are others that would agree with you too. Yeah, okay. Dear. So, we'll see what happens. We'll see whether Merlin wants to join us today or not. I'm not sure whether he will. I really don't know. I've had a week where I've been concentrating on very much other stuff, not so much the business in terms of working with clients, working with house healing and doing the house healing work. Consequently, when I'm working like that, I don't get a lot of direct intervention or suggestions from my guide. Now, I say direct because what I've been working on is a book proposal, and some of you will know that I've been working on it. And what happens when I'm writing like that and getting into the creative flow and sort of getting into the inspiration flow? I was thinking about shortly before actually coming on live, was that, you know, there are a lot of really, really good mediums out there, and you can get a lot of Reese boy, there you go, you made it, and you're on there, in which case I'm going to turn the messenger off because that's just going to get me confused. There are a lot of really, really good mediums that you can find out all sorts of information about, you know, the state of the world and the coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever we want to call it. But, you know, each and every one of us has this connection to the divine, to this inspiration. And what mediums are really, really good at, of course, is actually taking that inspiration, linking into it, and maintaining that channeled feed. And that's the only difference. So if you ever feel like you're in that moment, in that flow, really just the knack of hanging on, of walking that tightrope, of keeping that connection to your guide, that's all it is. It's practice at keeping that connection. I'm talking about that because in these times, what we'll find is a lot of people that are under more stress, what tends to happen is that the intuitive aspect of self, so in other words, the divine connection, actually comes more to the fore. So anybody that is born with the natural inclination to be a channel, a natural medium, what they will find is that the more stress that they're under, if they allow it, if they get into that space where, you know, if they've been open to the spiritual way of looking at life, which of course is what we're about on this channel, then they may well find that suddenly they've got far more intuitive capability, they've got far more intuitive insight, far more direct channeling. And now this is either going to work for them in a really good and lovely way, or it's going to make them feel even more stressed and psyched out and push them into this state of what we can call spiritual shock. So just saying, that might be relevant to people there. Hello, Carol, good to see you. Let's just catch up on a couple of those comments. Yeah, David, that's such an evocative memory. Okay. So, lots of people. Rebecca, good. Put it in Tim Water, and I can see it easily amongst everything else. So, the message of that point about spiritual shock and the extra stress is appropriate because I would dive straight in, because there's many theories and there's many bits of information around social media about COVID-19 and what's it all about. And a lot of the stuff, I get sort of two lots. I get information from mainstream, you know, like we all do. We all get the mainstream media coming in and email coming through. And then you also get the other side of it, which is the extremely alternative. And there's kind of variations in between. And, you know, it's very, very, very easy to get very caught up in a lot of this media that comes in is well and truly attaching itself to conspiracy theories and the whole attitude that we have, and many of us share, that, you know, we are aware that obviously the masses are being controlled by very few. That's the nature of the structure of the world. Now, so there's all sorts of conspiracy theories about why COVID-19 was released, how it was released, the darker agenda behind it. And you know what? I don't want to buy into any of that. And it's a conscious choice, because as soon as I sit and I start to read that stuff, I can feel my energy change straight away. It's a choice. It doesn't actually matter. Now that it's here, the important thing is what we are facing individually. And this is told to us all the time by the management. What do we face individually? So when we wake up in the morning, what do we face for that day? Now, there are people like Joseph and Billy who have already said in the chat, and it's, you know, humorously we can say, well, you know, this is the world joining them. This is their everyday This is their circumstance. And so what's that telling us individually? We can only look at it individually. Look at it individually. Look at the shutdown, the lockdown. What is that? How is that changing your relationship to everybody that you're locked down with your family, perhaps? You might not be with your family, you might be on your own. And in which case, that isolation that perhaps you feel on a day-to-day basis in what was considered ordinary everyday life is now exaggerated even more. But in this sense of adopting the spiritual perspective, which means stepping away from the habitual knee-jerk reactions to information that we receive, stepping back, detaching ourselves from our own habitual responses, we open the gap and we then allow ourselves to take the choice of stepping into our power to make a conscious decision, a mindful decision about how we're going to respond or not. And these are opportunities that are presenting to us all the time, being presented to us all the time by the management, by those that would wish us only the best. But it is our choice to accept only the best, if that's what we choose to accept. If we choose love, then we choose love. If we choose the darker energies, the lower energies of things that we allow to come into our perception, when they come into our perception, a choice at that moment. What do we feel we want to, how do we feel we want to react to that information? That's the point of choice. Already there are so many meditative invitations. There are invitations to meditate. So many of them. You all have received many different ones from many different people. And you might be overwhelmed, you might be feeling flooded by it. Which one do you choose? And the obvious answer is that you go with the one that fills your heart the most with joy and the one that you resonate the most with. Because despite the outer world in its chaos, the inner world can still find joy. There is still love within your heart as a human being that you can express and share with other people. And there are millions, perhaps, of people that are actually sharing their joy simply by being themselves and entertaining others and bringing joy, laughter, this lightness into the world at this time. Now, one thing's for sure, that what is happening is that there is a huge outpouring of what's the word? A huge outpouring of, I want to say camaraderie, but that suggests a war. Support for other people is the overwhelming thing that's coming across. The fear that is tangible, solid matter in the psyche of the human species, rather than 2 weeks ago when we last spoke in this setup, there was a feeling of unease, of uncertainty. It's almost a barrier there now. But this is about a healing of the species, of the human species. 7.5 billion souls, don't forget, on the planet, 7.5 billion souls changing the energy, changing their energy, the state of their awareness, their perspective. But we can't think about the 7.5 billion, and that's not the point. It's not the point to think of the 7.5 billion. The point is to think about your own individual reality and your own individual experience, and how within that experience you can choose or not to help somebody else. Obviously in lockdown that makes it difficult, but you are helping in your own way. You are helping your own individual families. And this is a time, if you wish to look at it from the spiritual perspective and to perhaps take away once this is over, and we'll talk about how long it might be before it's over shortly. But if you want to take away something from this experience, this extreme experience that is surrounded in fear, then it is perhaps how you relate to those around you that you are immediately locked down with. It's not easy. And what this is doing is making all of the issues that we face on a day-to-day basis within ourselves, so much more amplified and magnified. And this is why it's a healing, because these are the things that if we choose to address them, we can now address them. Stepping back for a minute. Okay, so no, exactly. So I'm just going to pick up the comment from Full Monty Voikan that's just popping out of the top of the chat here. I can go back to it probably, but if it is man-made, what difference does it make for us? None. And that's my point. That actually is the point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter. If it was man-made, if it was nature, if it's just mathematics of reality, it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. The spiritual viewpoint is that it is here and now, because there is only now. It doesn't matter where the influence has come from, whether it was the Chinese creating it deliberately, whether it was somebody else creating it deliberately. How far do you want to go? Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Because to create a story of where it came from is to look backwards at a time that is no longer here. It is no longer present. And the power that you have as a spiritual being is stepping into the now and being aware of the now and using the now to progress, so that when you take the step forward, because yes, we've got linear time, we're human beings, but as you step forward, you are stepping forward in a new way. So yes, we accept the past. We accept all of that past that we have, because we're human beings and there's always a human aspect that needs healing. We are a point of awareness. The past is a multitude of issues and baggage that's brought us to this point. But in order to take the path we want to go on, we are aware of the now, because the now is the pivot. The now is the context. The now is simply that point of awareness. So, having said that Merlin wasn't going to make an appearance, obviously he does. And do you know what? It's you can tell the difference, can't you? It's really interesting. So I'm going to go to these notes. I'm going to have a swig of tea. Last time we did this, we had lots of tea, and I'll have some more tea. So, Tammy, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, Adrian's got a little comment there. Sadly, people do like to find someone to blame. Yeah, indeed. But you know, let's be okay. Egotistical expression is let's be bigger than that. Eh? You know, let's relax into our true knowledge of actually the ego is irrelevant. And that's really what we're trying to get to. That's really what we talk about here, guys. Anyone else getting the polo of team on this stream? Oh, really? Bless. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the point is that we are points of awareness, and this expression that I've been using a lot. This points of awareness is to try and help people, anybody that comes across this information, anybody that comes across this video, help people shift to gently step away from the ego self, from the ego of the individual, the individual personality of the human being, because as we shift in vibration, I mean, look, being blunt, a lot of people, excuse the dog scratching in the background, a lot of people and animals would use the label ascension on this process, right? I mean, this is a healing time. And so many people in the mind, body, spirit world and the new age world and whatever you want to call it, or the spiritual world, have been asking for a healing of the earth and a healing of mankind, etc. And oops, oh, look what we've got. I mean, if we look at this in terms of house healing, we just take it away from the grand scale, take it back to a small scale, to a one-to-one scale. When we do house healing work, and we ask upstairs to do some change on a person's house, 50-50 or maybe 75% of the time, actually what happens is that the client's life gets turned upside down. It can be as simple as headaches, nausea, that sort of thing. With the first flush of healing energy that goes to them, there's sort of a reaction, an adverse reaction. And to me, this is exactly what we've got here. This is the healing reaction that we've got from the species, effectively. So let's try and kind of go with that line of thinking a little bit. Okay, so let's not get too caught up in the buffering. Hopefully it'll work through. It might be from this end, I don't know. I can't tell because obviously I've got a playback monitor here, but hopefully it'll all come out in the end. So if we look at it as a global healing, let's just sort of sit with that a little bit. What I was trying to get at before was when we talked about the individual and stepping out of the ego. I've got somebody else here that wants to say some stuff. So the ego is the concept of self, which is the constant battle for every human being. It's the concept of self. Now we use the term point of awareness of the universe. And Seth is mentioned there in the text by the full Monty Boykan. And what this spiritual essence is talking about is the removal of the self. Now, you will have heard it from spiritual gurus. Anywhere on YouTube, for example, you can find these wonderful people talking about their spiritual experience, where they actually lost the notion of self, sitting in meditation or whatever. And that's when you start to connect very deeply with the lack of ego, with that unity of everything. And it's not as difficult. It's not impossible. All the time that we think as an individual that this is something that other people do, then we're putting the barrier in place. What we're saying, well, as soon as we think, oh, that's something that somebody else has done, that must be an amazing thing to experience. But as soon as we do that, the barrier comes down and says, no, you won't experience that, because you're saying, no, that's something else. That's for somebody else. But if you lift that barrier and you accept that everybody has the same capacities, everybody has the same abilities, everybody is functioning from the same set of basic equipment, the human genome, it's there. Fluctuations, it changes all the time. And ironically, viruses actually embed within the human genome and create mutations and developments of the species. So what better way to create a change for the better than to have a virus causing a healing reaction? Don't take that the wrong way. Do not take that the wrong way. One thing I'm not saying is this is a good thing. What I'm saying is let's look on it positively. Those are two different things. And believe me, we all understand the pain and the suffering of those that are very, very unwell. And of course, our heart goes out to every one of them and their families, more so than the individuals going through the terror that they may be experiencing. But the point is, the individual awareness of the self, to think of ourselves as individuals and separate, is not the way to deal in the highest terms with this experience that we're currently going through. To think of ourselves as part of everything, then that enables us to look at it all from a different perspective. And it's all we're trying to do is to shift our perspective on the difficulties that we are facing from one moment to another through each day. And one of those difficulties, and I do want to get it in, is that Billy actually has a really good link to an organization, Blurt It Out, I think it's called, and that's about mental health awareness and depression and that sort of thing. And that's worth, Billy, if you want to put the link up, that would be fantastic. I've only just seen it today. It looks quite good. It'd be interesting to see what you think of it in due course, in time. No rush, Billy, it doesn't matter. So let's look at this on the individual level, because somewhere in here I have some notes. We've kind of jumped around the notes anyway already, but let's look at this in alignment with this word, detachment. Okay, because what does it mean to be detached? Well, you can look at detachment as being something that you rather like decluttering. You know, there's a big thing, isn't there, about, yes, well, we're going to declutter. We're going to get rid of all the stuff we don't need anymore because we're now a spiritual being. I mean, yeah, decluttering is helpful, don't get me wrong, but detachment in the sense of detaching your point of awareness, which is what we've been talking about. You step back from that. You know, if this is your way of seeing the world, experience of the world, because the world remains the same, it responds to you. The only thing that you've got power over is your responses to it. That is the only thing that you've got power over and control over, is how you respond to everything that comes to your awareness, to everything that you need to make a choice about, everything that you need to make a decision about. And yeah, it sounds horrible, but actually anxiety and stress is one of those things that you can become a master of. Now, again, this is not how long ago of describing people as being weak-minded. You know, how outrageous that somebody could. I mean, that's trolls for you, isn't it? Right? Circumstance of stress, creating anxiety, creating depression, whichever any of these mental health issues. These are not necessarily issues of circumstance that are incredibly life debilitating. Sometimes these things can be present and you can still enjoy the quality of life that you have. I mean, again, bless, I keep saying Billy popping up stuff there. Sorry. Okay, right. Yeah, okay, Eric. Right, so just highlighting that from Tammy there. Sorry, that's what caught me there. So, yeah. So do send your prayers to Eric, please. I mean, again, you see that there is likely to be quite a lot of people that do suffer like that. And anxiety and stress on the surface level are quite often caused by the feeling of being out of control and the inability to control. So a lot of people will absolutely now be feeling completely and utterly out of control, and they will feel completely and utterly adrift. And that's witnessed by the chaos in the supermarkets, etc., etc. I mean, that is the symptom of those that want to be in control, that have the need to gather stuff to them because they are fearful to that extent. Their world is now out of control. Not saying this is necessarily the case for Eric. I'm just saying that this is symptomatic of stage one. Stage two, you're going to get to a stage where you're going to go one of two ways. You're either going to have a breakdown, or you're going to be able to get over it in terms of actually just addressing and changing the philosophy by which you live, which is actually on the spiritual level, it is riding the wave, going with the wave, only addressing what you can deal with as it comes to you. Only addressing what you can deal with as it comes to you. Those things that you can immediately affect, those things that you can immediately change, those things that you can be in control of. Fundamentally, the way you feel about what comes to you. And then it's one step at a time, one tiny step at a time. Deal with one thing at a time, not dealing with the whole capacity of zombie apocalypse. And not seeing it as all being so unfair, people's businesses going under, people losing a lot of money, people losing possessions, people losing people. But you deal with one thing at a time, the things that you can cope with, and put other stuff to the side and allow them just to be. I would heartily recommend that everybody does meditate to find that mental space. If you haven't got the physical space in the external world, try meditating and get inside to the inner space, because that's where your power will be. I'll have to, Maria, good to see you, good to see you. Okay, Voikin, where was you? Oh, there you are, right, okay, so sorry, yes, so I've missed a couple of your acting waters. Let me just nip back up here. I will come back to what I was talking about. Okay, so Voikin, observer versus participant, we looked at that, yeah, absolutely. Have you thought about making a Zoom session with those from the live chat? Yeah, I mean, various things. I mean, there's, yeah, is the answer. I mean, you're in my head, basically. Yes, I have thought about it, and I don't quite know yet what I am going to do about it. One of the things that I'd like to do with the regulars from the lives here on the Q&A, because you are very much a regular team. Sorry, team, whatever, would be to actually get it. Hello, Dixie, good man. Middle of the night down there in Australia. Good to see you. Hope the little one's doing well. You're very much, you get a feeling of being together. You get a feeling of being in the same group, even on here. And what would be nice would be able to try to get to help you all work as an energy body, as a team together, those of you that want to do that. And maybe Zoom is the way to go. Yeah, a team, exactly. And we can do stuff. And then we can also, in a private space, which that would be, we can drill down and actually assist people. Let's say Tammy, just as an example. We could actually, spend time helping individuals from the team perspective. Anywho, let's just see how we go. Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to check through here because I was going somewhere and I have actually completely forgotten what I was saying. Do feel free to chat amongst yourselves while I just refer to my notes. So I think the key thing here, and I'm sure somebody will join us again when he wants to, the key thing is that, we were talking earlier on about looking retrospectively. Not retrospectively, looking back in time and saying, whose fault is it? Was that? I mean, if you think, okay, let's just try this. I don't know whether any of you are in the headspace to try this, but while we're just sort of talking about group work, if you all just, let's use this might work as an example of detachment, and maybe if anybody's watching on playback, it might mean something to them as well. So let's just think about this in this sense. So if you think about right now, each one of us actually think about, let's do what I said, let's, what we shouldn't do, which is to go into the space of thinking, what caused it? What has caused this? What has caused this massive meltdown of society and therefore caused lockdown? So if you think individually, I don't care, I don't want you to necessarily voice it. You can put it there if you want to. Yeah, Summer, we'll come on to that. Remind me later. Just think about individually. You don't necessarily need to put it on chat because it's going to start on all sorts of discussion on chat, which maybe let's not do that. But think individually. What do you feel when you think back to your true feeling about how it all started months ago? Do you think that it was caused by a conspiracy, that it was an act of aggression deliberately set? Now, if you do, I'm not interested in knowing whether you do or not on there, but if you do, I want you to think about or feel, just step into that moment of how you connect to that thought. How does that make you feel? Probably very angry. And so what you're carrying there is the anger. That is the anger that is associated with your thought. And this is why it's important to be aware of your thoughts, because it's not the thought that is the damaging aspect. It is the emotion that is attached to the thought that is the damaging action. It is the emotion of anger building within the body, being stored within the body, anger plus, whatever other aspect is, that is the object, the facet of the self for the individual human being that requires the healing, requires the attention. Okay, so what we're saying is, by detaching your viewpoint, by observing how you feel, by observing your reaction, you are opening the door, you're opening up that gap, and you're allowing yourself to then act upon the anger or the fear, of which of course there is a massive amount. You're opening those aspects up for the healing. And so when we do a meditation, and there are a lot of them about, as we started saying earlier on, there's so many meditations around at the moment, pick the one that you resonate with. And if it's guiding you through a visualization and telling you to flood the earth with loving light and all the rest of it, also be aware that each one of us is here and now, in the now, because we are supposed to be here and now, in the present. And therefore we individually, whether we have something physically ailing us, what an old-fashioned term, whether there's something physically wrong with us, whether we've got the COVID-19 virus or not, it doesn't matter. What we ask while we do that meditation is that we ask the management to also heal us as an individual aspect of it. Okay? Because each of us, every one of us here, there are, hello Tom, good to see you. Jasper's good. Yeah, Jasper's asleep in the corner. There are 26 of you online, 27 if you include me. So there are 27 people involved in this moment that actually do require healing. There are so many, we all have baggage that requires work, and this is the perfect opportunity. And the reason that we're here and now is because it's linked to the out there. We wouldn't be experiencing the out there if we weren't connected to it and connected to each other. So whatever meditation you choose to do, and I have actually personally kind of aligned myself in my own head with a meditation that is due to take place at 7 o'clock BST, British Summertime, on a Monday evening. In fact, every evening, not on Monday evening, every evening, 7 o'clock British Summertime. Now, for some of you, that's going to be no good at all, like Dixie in Australia, that's no good for him. But those of you that are in the UK and Europe or Canada, if it's going to be convenient, America, if it's convenient at the start of your day, to join us, not physically, but to join us in the meditation at that time. And then just think about, we'll know that, other people are sitting at the same time and meditating for the global shift to continue, but to be over as soon as possible and as peacefully as possible and with as much balance and harmony as possible. And the point is, one of the reasons that I'm really going on about looking at about the individual healing, looking back at, linking to the anger or fear, etc., is because I've gone completely blank, is how incredibly strange. Just completely lost that one. I must have said it already. That's weird. That was weird. That was weird. Okay. That was weird. Okay. So anybody else feel, just, I know I'm not into the weirdness, you know, but anybody else just find that was a bit odd? I mean, I know it looked a bit odd. I just completely lost it, but I lost it in a greater degree than. Great, good. 7 o'clock. British summertime, 7 o'clock British summertime every evening from now on. Yes, that was the reason. Because we have the choice and the opportunity, it is not written in stone. The future is not written in stone. This is a highly flexible point in time. Now, we could go and talk about things that sound very Doctor Who and woo-woo here at this point, but let's just leave it that this is a very flexible time. And the more people that choose to abandon the low energies, we are literally able to create the future that we want. This is a time that we choose who do we want to be, how do we want to present ourselves as individuals, but as a collective. And this is why it's so important to look at all of the good that's coming out right now, because that's what we're aligning our heart with, and that is therefore what we are manifesting and co-creating in alignment with the management. And that's all that just needed to be said. Okay? Cool. Cool. Okay. Lady Hayes, good. So I think what we'll do, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, now the other thing is, now look, Billy's written there about Mother Earth, and the other thing, this is one of the things that I wanted to also add to somebody else. I read this from a guy. There's a guy called, he's a bit of a philosopher, a guy called Tim Freak, Freke. I haven't seen a lot of his work, but I have sort of kept half an eye on what he's doing, what he's up to. And I got an email, I'm on his list. I got an email from him a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, and it was saying, like, he feels sorry for those people that are saying this is Mother Earth getting her own back. And I thought, yeah, actually, I agree with that. It's not about Mother Earth getting her own back, because it's about our healing. But it's not Mother Earth getting her own back, because Mother Earth actually understands and has been crying out for this to occur for ages. It's us that are going through the pain of it. Bless her, she's not. You know, she's been through enough pain. She's been through all of the massive diseases that have swept through all sorts of fauna and animal kingdoms, destroyed half of them. And she goes through the constant changes of evolution and changing animal species all the time. Now, of course, we can look at ourselves as a parasite, the human species, in that well-known term, a parasite, like the Matrix movie says, right? Well, you know, human beings are a parasitic species. Or we can look at ourselves as coming back, like the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter. Of course, it wasn't a prodigal daughter, and we apologize for that, but looking at it like being the prodigal offspring returning to the parents and returning to harmony and to balance and to the being that never stopped loving us. Okay, so guys, gosh, now have I talked? have I actually talked about detachment? Let me know. Ask some questions, chaps. Yeah, what I was saying was I will action something with a small group. Yeah, I think so too, Tammy. I mean, there's no doubt that we have abused her in the last 200 years or so, especially with the Industrial Revolution and everything else that came out the back of that. So absolutely. Right, so coming back round to a smaller group, we will action something like that. I may have to ask for a small contribution from people, if that's okay, but I'll put some publicity up about that. If you're on my mailing list, folks, it would be really, really helpful. I will be mailing around my mailing list with information about that. So if you go over to knightsrose.com, Billy, if you want to pop the link up when you're ready, no rush, www.knightsrose.com. So that's KNIGHTS. rose.com. Thank you for the time check. Stick yourself on the mailing list, please, if you want to be a part of what we're going to be doing. And I am going to be communicating with the mailing list. Those of you that have been on there some time, you'll know that I'm dreadful at sending out information. It's part of my intention to change that and to get more mailings out. I used to do a lot more. Yeah, no, that's great, Rebecca. Absolutely. No, you're not being flippant at all. I think it's absolutely 100%. This is a time for healing. Thank you for the website link there, Billy. This is 100% a moment of healing, and that's why it's historical. You know, people are going on about it's a history in the making. Well, it is, but not for the reason that the mainstream think it is. It is going to be amazing. Now, I said earlier on that we would just touch on how long is this going to last, how long are we going to be in lockdown. I don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown, but if you remember back, and I think I mentioned this last time, if you remember back to the end of last year, we had a little wordette from Merlin about what 2020 was going to be, and he actually said 2021. So my suspicion is that this is going to go, it's going to ease off, as they're predicting. It's going to ease off in the summer. So summer not being a great virus time, but as we get back into winter again, it's going to come back again. We may well go into new lockdown in the winter, go through next winter, but we would have got the hang of it by then. As long as people don't panic buy, we'll be okay. I personally expect this to go on into 2021. Not lockdown. I'm not saying lockdown. I'm saying the virus coming back again, and this healing period, I personally suspect is going to go into 2021. I will be very glad if I'm proved wrong. So let's keep our fingers crossed. And vaccines will be definitely on the way. And of course, they're already doing trials with using the blood of those that have been infected, because that's the old fashioned way of doing it. You use the blood of somebody that's been infected, they got the antibodies, so you inject with the antibodies. I don't know what the medical practice is. I'm not sure that you inject the blood of the person, but there's something about it that they're dealing with. So things will change. The virus will be overcome. What we have to overcome and sort out and use this opportunity is the opportunity we're given, which is thanks, Tammy, is to heal. It's a healing time. Yeah, let's not forget it. Antibodies, yeah. Now, the other thing is, of course, in the meditation, sometimes if you want to work on promoting antibodies and visualizing antibodies and clearing a space, when you sit in any meditation, whether it's on your own or in a group, then visualize that and go with that and really align your heart with that. And so it's not just the loving white light coming through, but it's actually actively asking for the antibodies to be there and to disperse the detrimental aspect that is not required. And of course, you're doing all of that in alignment with divine will. So just ask and state it. We shall overcome. You're really doing it today, Voiken, because meaning you're in my head. Because only the other day I was thinking about something that I dreamt after Hamish Miller, my mentor, had passed away and he stepped over to the other side. I had a dream. Actually, I had a dream on the night that he died, that I was talking to him and he was in the house. And the last thing he said to me in this dream was, "We shall be triumphant." He said, "We shall be triumphant." And that's what you're saying here. We shall overcome. Yes. Hamish walked out of my dream. Very last perception of him in that sense. We shall be triumphant, meaning the good will overcome the darkness. Yeah, good. DNA healing is good to ask for too. Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point, Adrian. Thank you. Yeah, nothing is forever. Cool. Any last questions? JF actually had a point. Do upstairs have any suggestions on what to do to harmonize ourselves within our house and spirit of place? How can we work with it to make the situation more positive? I think that in that situation, if those of you that are even getting kind of in tune with where you live a bit more, if you're working with the power center and you just literally in those instances pull down the white light, you do the white light exercise in that sense, pull down the white light, pull the white earth energy up from below as well, and harmonize it within the space. Just clear it and just keep asking for the space. If you're going through a rough day, then ask for the space to be harmonized and balanced for the benefit of all in the family. Okay, so but don't keep doing that if it's all okay. If it's all going well, don't ask for it, because if you're doing that, then you're kind of, the human aspect of you is saying there's something wrong. But if it's all going well, then it's okay. Just allow it to slide and to be, and you can work on yourself. If it starts to go a bit like everybody's really getting each other in the family, for example, then ask for it, the energy, and use the ultrafine mesh net of light and love, expression of Adrian's. The ultrafine, the angelic ultrafine mesh net of light and love. Just ask and visualize it just going through the house, taking away all detrimental aspects, all detrimental energy at a subatomic level, things that are no longer required. Because even just the family living in the space and maybe having a little bit of a gripe at each other, kids particularly having a bit of a go, or the animals, bless them. They'll there'll be little bits of energy kind of left that it could do with a nice bit of dusting away, clearing away. And that ultrafine mesh net of light and love is a great way to do a bit of housekeeping and harmonize the space. Yeah, well, I mean, 5G is a massively emotive point, and but really the key thing, Maria, about 5G is just treat it like all other sorts of technopathic stress, which is that it is a part of your reality. You are in control of it, largely speaking. There's nothing that the management is putting into your world, into your experience of life, which is deliberately in the sense of it being lethal. There's no need for the management to put things in place that are killing the species. This is not an individual comment directed against Maria. This is a comment for everybody that is so scared of 5G. There are people that are experiencing physical symptoms that they believe to be from the electromagnetic fields that affect people. Yes, some people are EMF sensitive, no doubt. You'll kill us. And that's all there is. That's dangerous. That is a very large part of it. I was about to say that's all there is to it. No, there's not. That's not all there is to it. You are controlling your reality. Remember what we said earlier on, how you respond to things is the only thing you have control of. If somebody puts a tower up 6 feet from my window out there, I wouldn't like it. Of course I wouldn't like it. And obviously people in urban situations, and soon we're going to get that 5G beam down from satellites, etc. So yes, EMF fields do influence wildlife. They do influence nature. They do affect us. They do affect animals. They do affect flowers and plants. Do they kill us? The jury is out. Do we think they kill us? Some people do. Is it dangerous that we think they kill us? Yeah. Of EMF can be alleviated, not necessarily eliminated. We don't need to go and put a foil hat on. Bottom line, I would say, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, that wasn't directed all at Maria. So sorry, Maria, if you felt it wasn't. It was a general comment to everybody. A lot of people are terrified of 5G. Let's not put it out there along with COVID-19 as the big scary monster. And COVID-19 at the moment is bringing the fears out, our individual fears. It is bringing all of the individual fears to the fore. Even if you don't realize that's what it's doing, that is what it's doing. That is what, from upstairs point of view, that's what the shift is about. It's about allowing us to see and using this opportunity to analyze all of those things that really scare us. And death is the big one that scares us. Most of us, me included. But I'm actually, to be honest, I'm not scared. I'm not actually scared of dying. I'm scared of the process leading up to that point of dying. If I go walking through, yeah, it's the fear. If I go walking through the tunnel, I don't know what I'll think, but that point doesn't scare me. It's the rest of it leading up to it. So let's not worry about that. Any last questions? JF, yeah, sorry, mate. Yes, absolutely. I think that's right. And I think in that sort of protective mode, link into them, to the guardian spirit of the house, you know, perceive it however you wish it to be perceived, JF, in this instance. Don't necessarily need to go searching for the one that you can necessarily talk to with the dowsing rods, but, you know, sure, that's the one to really go for when you're happy, when you're comfortable. But otherwise, just think of the house, either the spirit of the physical being, but ideally you want to be talking to that spirit of the space, the guardian energy. A pint of Lagavulin, I think, Adrian. Okay, Dixie, yeah, cool. Let me just go back up here. Where are we? Billy. Is that different? No, well, yes, in a way. Well, no, and yes, Billy. When you're connecting to the energy of the crystals and you can feel them coming to you, what you're doing is you're using an aspect of that ability to channel. But channeling really is when we're talking about a personality or inspiration coming through, right? So what you're doing when you're feeling the energy of the crystals is that your sensitivities are such that you're able to feel the energy coming to you in the subtle, and that's a subtle perception, that's a subtle awareness. So that's a brilliant thing. What you'll find is that you have a lot of creativity, you know, all of your craft work and stuff, whether you still do it or not, you're a very creative human being, and very creative human beings are usually very sensitive and able to channel. And so most of the time you're channeling anyway. You know, when, as we said before, when a writer is writing something, I don't know why they're doing that, but when they're writing something, they are channeling. They are bringing information through. And so you're probably doing it anyway. So don't think of it as special. This is really what we said right at the start. Channeling is not something that just some special people do. Everybody can do it. And it's just a matter of kind of fine tuning. Okay. Yeah, to Tammy, you know what, I wouldn't, do you know what, I think from the Buddhist point of view, you know, but the Buddhists, I believe it's the Buddhists, say think about death every day, but you know, when you think about it in terms of being prepared, you know, being living your life now, being present now, and being aware that yes, at some point something else will change, but let's not focus on it. Because if we're focusing on it and thinking about, well, how is it going to happen? And, you know, would it be like that? Would it do this? Then you're kind of inviting it in, and you don't want to be embracing the Grim Reaper before upstairs wants you to be, in that sense. I know you then get into the whole argument of, well, you'll only go when they're ready for you, etc., etc. But, you know, in the sense that the future isn't cast in stone, don't encourage it, is what I hope that 100. Can't remember what that means. Oh no! Don't be scared about that at all. Don't be scared about that, Billy. Go for the Reiki. Go for it. Don't be scared about that. Yeah, exactly. Once the lockdown's over, get out there and do the Reiki. That'd be fantastic. It'd be really, really good. Really good. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. Shall we say cheerio? And it's good to see you all. We'll do the same again next week. I have no idea what we'll be talking about next week. Do leave a comment and do ask questions that we can kind of kick off for next week. Thanks, Summer. Nice. Yep, be with you at 7 o'clock this evening. Don't forget meditation tonight, and I'll try and put some information during the week. I'll try and assemble some kind of structure that we'll talk about. Yeah, good, lovely, nice to see you all. Cheerio, onwards and upwards. Oh man. When this is over, we'll have to do some flying around. Hit subscribe. I think you've all subscribed, but hit subscribe if you're not a regular. That'd be lovely. And just a reminder, visit knightsrose.com and sign up to the mailing list, and we'll get some information out and we'll get something really good going. Okay. Cheers, guys. Thanks for this. It's been lovely. Send prayers to Tammy and Eric. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, I'm going now. Take care. See you next week then. Bye-bye.